Relay, we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this per tweet from Michael Benson. It appears Daniel Dubois' next fight will be against Australia's own Lucas Browne. His trainer, Shane McGuigan, has indicated. In light of recent events, the entire fiasco with Benn and his performance-enhancing drug fiasco, I find it quite whimsical.
I find it funny. You never have to look hard in the sport of boxing for somebody that tested positive for a banned substance.
You don't. Here we have two-time banned substance offender Lucas Browne.
And like everybody else that's ever been caught with a banned substance in their system, Lucas had a lofty explanation. These guys always do.
Tell you the truth, I can't even pretend to be at all bothered that Benn may have been using a banned substance ahead of this fight. In any event, Daniel Dubois is going to be returning to action against Lucas Browne, a guy who's no better, no worse, than the last guy that he fought, Trevor Bryan.
He'll probably take out Lucas Browne just as fast, if not faster, than he took out Trevor Bryan. This is a keep busy fight.
A maintenance fight, keeping the machine well-oiled, keeping the tools sharp kind of fight. I half expected Daniel's next opponent to be Manuel Charr because Manuel did indicate that he entered into a multi-fight arrangement with the people at Queensbury and BT, and he might end up fighting Daniel or Tyson Fury.
Another guy who tested positive for a banned substance.
Oh, Tyson Fury?
Both of them, actually. Both Manuel Charr and Tyson Fury have tested positive for banned substances.
Just like Lucas Browne. And this is what I mean.
I can't pretend to be outraged, sit around giving speeches.
In any event, if Daniel Dubois does end up fighting Lucas Browne, I anticipate that Daniel's going to knock this guy out. He's going to knock his block off. That's how that fight ends. That's what's going to happen. The matchmaking isn't all that ambitious for Daniel, not based on these opponents, Trevor Bryan, Lucas Browne. I don't anticipate that things are going to get interesting for Daniel in terms of sizzling and titillating fights until the WBA orders him to fight someone. In the current ranked standings, Michael Hunter, America's own Michael Hunter, is ranked at number 1. He's in line to challenge Daniel for his version of the WBA title, and that would be a far more interesting fight than this fight is. This fight between Daniel and Lucas.
Lucas is coming off that shock upset win over Junior Fa.
I think most people picked Junior Fa to splatter Lucas Browne in that fight. I picked Junior Fa to splatter Lucas Browne in that fight that took place on the undercard of Devin Haney versus George Kambosos, and Lucas has breathed a bit more life into his career. It's up to Daniel to knock the wind out of this guy, knock the wind out of it. I think that he can. I think that he will.
Lucas Browne is 42, going on 43 years old.
He's around there. This ain't the kind of fight you got to spend a lot of time on. This ain't the kind of fight you got to spend a whole lot of time thinking about. Daniel Dubois is the logical choice, and this is just a fight to keep him busy. That's all it is. Hopefully the matchmaking, as it were, will be a lot more ambitious next year. Just in keeping with the theme of all things performance enhancing, Eddie Hearn took to his social media and stated, "Long day, always ready for what tomorrow brings." Eddie Hearn, he had to get out there. He had to answer a lot of questions today. Get in front of this thing. Do some damage control. Provide some clarity as to whether or not this event is moving forward. Will the British Boxing Board of Control be an obstacle? And is it an obstacle that can be overcome? Eddie Hearn's been receiving a lot of heat.
They're calling Eddie Hearn a hypocrite because in the past, he took a hardline stance when it came to PED users and guys who test positive for banned substances.
But now that one of his own prize stallions has tested positive for a banned substance, those comments, they're coming back to haunt him. And there are a lot of people that are having fun with that. Myself,
I don't even take the situation seriously, and I can't hold Eddie Hearn's feet to the fire when his domestic rival, Frank Warren's
prize stallion is Tyson Fury, who tested positive for a banned substance. He also signed Manuel Charr to a multi-fight deal, a multi-fight engagement. Manuel Charr tested positive for a banned substance. If the story about Daniel checks out and he ends up fighting Lucas Browne tested positive 2 times for banned substances.
Seems like everybody's doing their fair share to keep these offenders.
Hey, listen, don't Don't tell me about the morality of the situation and the safety concern, the dangerous precedents. Don't tell me about any of this stuff when it comes to Conor Benn if you're turning a blind eye to Tyson Fury and his Nandrolone case. Don't do it. Don't waste my time. Don't waste your own.
Don't try to tell me about how big a hypocrite Eddie Hearn is when Frank Warren is doing business with 3 guys that tested positive for banned substances.
Don't tell me about it, because that would only make you an even bigger hypocrite than you're making Eddie Hearn out to be.
Don't pretend that you care about this stuff. You don't.
You and I both know. You guys out there don't give 2 furry flamingo-shaped fucks about any of this stuff.
You don't.
What are you trying to convince me of? Are you trying to convince me that if these guys do end up fighting on Saturday, what, you're not gonna go?
Huh?
Or you're not gonna watch?
Huh?
You're gonna boycott the event? That's what you're gonna do?
Yeah, break.
There are a lot of people questioning as to whether or not this show should even be allowed to go on. There are nuances and subtleties, particulars in association with all of this that need to be addressed. That as far as UCAD is concerned, Conor Benn is a clean fighter. He didn't fail any of their tests, and the British Boxing Board of Control works in tandem with UCAD. They adhere to what UCAD finds and act accordingly.
But in a situation where UCAD didn't find anything and VADA did, what the hell are you supposed to do? What's the next course of action?
It's not the morality of it or the precedence that makes me think moving forward with this event.
Makes me wonder whether or not they even should move forward with this event. It's not the morality.
Morality. This is boxing. What fucking morality? It's not that makes me wonder whether or not they should even bother with this thing. It's the damage to Conor Benn's reputation that makes me wonder. He can go in there on Saturday, if they let him, if the show goes on. He can go in there on Saturday, knock Chris Eubank Jr.,
Knock him out in the first round off the first big right hand that lands. He can do that.
but the damage is done, you understand. The damage to his reputation. And if he were to go in there and knock this guy out under these circumstances, the victory is tainted.
If he goes in there with Chris and he doesn't knock him out, if he goes in there with Chris and he gets himself knocked out,
It's a lose-lose for Conor Benn is what I'm getting at. He can go in there and win, and he'll still be the bad guy. He can go in there and lose.
he'll still be the bad guy. He'll just be the bad guy with a loss on his record.
There's no getting away from this, and there's no getting around it. Not right now. Not when the virtue signaling and the moral authority, as it were, the moral outrage, is at an all-time high.
If anything makes me question whether or not they should even bother with this thing, it's that. It's that the damage to Conor's reputation is done.
It is irreversible. It's not all this morality crap. It's not the dangers of it or any of that, because Chris Eubank Jr. wants to go ahead with this thing. And reports seem to indicate that the BBBOC was privy to this information weeks ago, and they're only now just getting around to making a ruling.
Seems that all of the affected parties knew about this before we did, before shit hit the fan.
My stance on banned substances and performance-enhancing drugs, doping and anti-doping,
It's changed over time because over time I realized
the sport and the spectators that take it in, they're complicit with all of this. They are. And, you know, the same guys that are lambasting Eddie Hearn now, the same guys that are calling him a hypocrite, holding his feet to the fire. You know, a lot of these guys are big Tyson Fury fans, and he tested positive for a banned substance. He had a lofty explanation, the same way I'm sure Conor has a lofty explanation. The same way all of these guys have lofty explanations for how they got to this point.
you don't give 2 fucks about banned substances and doping in the sport of boxing if you're lambasting Conor when it comes to his case, but trying to explain away Tyson Fury's or Canelo Alvarez's.
You don't give 2 fucks about none of this stuff, so stop pretending.
Don't fool me.
I think it was Rick Mirrigan handling the career of Arnold Barboza and several others. He said it best. People on here are acting like Eddie Hearn was the one that failed the drug test. Sheesh. He is just doing what anyone would do in his position and has his company and millions of dollars on the line. If you were in his shoes, you would do the exact same thing and try.
The real reason so many people are pretending to be bent out of shape about this is because they're making this a Eddie Hearn Frank Warren thing.
Oh yeah, because Frank, he'd never do business with a boxer that might be doping.
Or has been in the past. He'd never do that, right? That's why he signed Tyson Fury as soon as Tyson Fury's drug ban was over.
Speaking of Tyson Fury, you do realize that he has been implicated in all of this. Dr. Usman Sajad is a specialist in testosterone replacement therapy. He lists Conor Benn as one of the athletes he works with. Dr. Usman Sajad's website has now been taken offline. However, this is a video of its homepage.
Now, why would Dr. Usman all of a sudden take down his website?
Why would he do that? Do you think that this entire fiasco with Conor Benn might have something to do with that? That might be the reason that all of a sudden Dr. Usman decided to take down his own website. I mean, he deals with a lot of high-profile clients, guys like Tyson Fury, Joseph Parker, Conor Benn, Paddy Pimblett of the UFC.
Why are all these young guys looking for testosterone replacement therapy?
Why, indeed, you get the sense that this is who supplied Conor Benn with the clomiphene that was found in his system. If he is in fact the guy that supplied Conor with that performance-enhancing drug or banned substance or whatever it was, what is he supplying Tyson Fury with? Because he seems to work with him as well. What is he supplying Joseph Parker with?
Don't start giving me some song and dance about how Tyson Fury's innocent. He's tested positive for banned substances before.
And there he is, alongside an image of Conor Benn, Nathan Gorman, Joseph Parker.
The pendulum swings both ways, my friend.
And I'm just giving it to you straight because it's the only way I know how to give it to you. I'm not telling you to turn a blind eye to Conor Benn, and I'm certainly not arguing in his favor, arguing that he's innocent. I'm telling you that the guy looks guilty.
Just as guilty as Tyson Fury, who's no stranger to banned substances.
We both know that. So if you're going to give Conor Benn shtick for testing positive for clomiphene, how do you feel about Tyson Fury?
Looks a lot like they shop at the same supermarket for hormones.
Pardon me, hormone therapy, testosterone replacement. That's what Dr. Uz.
It's his specialty. It's what he specializes in, right?
It's his racket. It's what he does. And along with several other high-profile clients, Conor Benn included, so is Tyson Fury. What do you guys think about that?
You don't find that interesting?
You don't find it at all suspicious that he chose today to take his website down on the heels of this news? And finally, in men's middleweight or super middleweight news, it really all depends, Jaime Munguia to return October 29 in San Diego. Opponent nearly finalized. Jaime Munguia is still waiting on a finalized opponent, but has a date and location for his next ring adventure. BoxingScene.com has confirmed that the unbeaten former WBO junior middleweight titleist will return to the ring October 29 at Pechanga Arena in San Diego. The full details of the bout remain in progress, other than his fight once again headlining a DAZN telecast from his home region. It's official. Fernando Beltran, Munguia's co-promoter and head of Zanfer Boxing, confirmed Thursday evening. Jaime Munguia returns to the ring October 29 at Pechanga Arena in San Diego, closing in on an opponent. It was rumored that he was supposed to be facing John Ryder,
But then the rumor became that DAZN didn't want to pay for that fight.
previous rumors suggested that Munguia's team was in advanced talks to face England's John Ryder in a super middleweight bout. However, representatives from Zanfer Boxing and Golden Boy Promotions would not speculate on whether the former title challenger is still the frontrunner or if other options were being explored. Munguia, 40 wins, no losses, no draws, with 32 knockouts, who turns 26 October 6th, continues his run as one of the sport's most active fighters. The announced date will mark his third fight of 2022 and fourth within an 11th-month span, all taking place roughly within 2 hours of his Tijuana hometown. It will mark his debut in San Diego, less than 40 minutes from home, and after previously fighting twice in Anaheim and once in Tijuana, all in his prior bouts dating back to last November.
My previous video, we talked about Edgar Berlanga expressing an interest in facing Jaime.
I'm not against that fight. I'm not. The main issue there is politics. Edgar's with Top Rank and Jaime is with Golden Boy.
You often hear it said that Jaime Munguia is a very limited fighter.
And perhaps he is. I won't argue that. But even with all his limitations, I'd pick Jaime Munguia to knock Edgar Berlanga's block off. Edgar would be getting more than he bargained for in Jaime Munguia, who, for my money, is a more developed fighter, albeit limited.
Albeit very limited, but he's still better than Edgar.
In his most recent start, Munguia scored a fifth-round stoppage of Jimmy Kilrain Kelly on June 11th at the Honda Center in Anaheim. The fight was contested at super middleweight, coming at a contracted limit of 165 pounds. It marked a career super heaviest weight for Munguia, who has spent the last 2 years at middleweight after previously campaigning at junior middleweight, where he crammed 6 title fights into a 16-month span. The win over Kelly was the 6th for Munguia at or above middleweight, though his team drew criticism for the fight that didn't take place that night.
The Charlo fight that Oscar pulled him out of.
Plans were seemingly in place for Munguia to challenge unbeaten WBC middleweight titleist Jermall Charlo on June 18th in Charlo's Houston hometown. The fight fell apart at the 11th hour over a dispute on which platform it would air. Showtime was prepared to carry the event, while Munguia's handlers insisted that DAZN needed to be involved. Ironically, it was never meant to be, as Charlo has not fought since. The undefeated 2-division title holder agreed to instead face Poland's Maciej Sulecki on the date, but was forced to postpone the show after reportedly suffering a back injury. The fight has yet to be rescheduled.
Why bother?
Who the fuck wants to see that fight?
I don't know who Munguia's gonna fight in his next fight. I really don't.
You have to wonder if he's all but done in the middleweight division, and moving forward, he will campaign as a super middleweight henceforth. Perhaps his next fight, wherever it is, if it's against John Ryder at super middleweight or someone else at super middleweight, perhaps that will give us the clarity we need.
But who else can Golden Boy conjure up for him to fight at super middleweight?
Danny Jacobs. He's not doing anything. He's not with anybody. Maybe they get him that guy. I don't know, maybe Shane Mosley's son.
You have to wonder, is Jaime really done at middleweight? Is he gonna stay at super middleweight?
You know, there ain't no titles lying around for him to pick up, any world titles of opportunity. Canelo Alvarez still has all the belts in the super middleweight division, and unless something changes, that's the guy he'd have to go through to get one. Get them all, really.
I still feel like a Golovkin fight is a possibility, even though Gennadi's down there at middleweight.
It's no secret that the people at Golden Boy have been matching Jaime Munguia baby soft, but a fight against an aging fighter, an aging champion, an aging Gennady Golovkin that really didn't look great in his last fight, a fight like that might be enough to bring him back down to 160 pounds.
The fight would have more of a profile than a Jacobs fight or a Mosley fight.
And unlike those fights, it would be for a world title. Maybe 2, depending on what happens between Gennady and Lara.
That's just me bouncing ideas around.